Hey everyone, in this video we are going to discuss molecular and cellular aging. So the aging process is something that is difficult to analyze because even though people may be the same age, you can see that there are differences in the way that their physiology is allowing them to continue living. So with that said, we look also at the breakdown of structures in the body and the effects of the ability of those structures to function properly. So again, the entire theme of this class has been two things: anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is structure, physiology is the function. So we learned this the very first week of Anatomy 1, and that is that the anatomy of something, the structure, dictates the function or the physiology of something. So in the case of aging, structures are starting to break down and change shape, and therefore change function. And most times that's not a good thing. In the medical field, we call this gerontology, and this is the examination of biological changes at all ages. So, just to see what's going on at all ages in an individual. At the molecular and cellular levels, active and passive aging occur, and that's what we're going to talk about in these next couple of slides. So, let's first take a look at passive aging. So, in passive aging, we're going to see a breakdown of structures and the slowing of their functions. Molecularly, this involves the degeneration of elastin and collagen proteins, so the connective tissues. So we're going to start to see things like skin sagging and muscles losing their firmness. We're also going to see that DNA replication can be disrupted and cells may die due to the damaged genetic instructions. So there's more to the aging process than just someone who may appear to be older. There's things going on at the molecular level that are causing that to happen, and here are some of them. In addition to this, we can look at the biochemistry, specifically lipids. They are going to break down, and their aging membranes and mitochondria are going to leak and malfunction. So the cells, at the cellular level, the cells are breaking down and are unable to function properly. Cellular degradation is associated with free radicals. So, on top of the cells breaking down, they are going to create these free radicals, which some people may have heard of, and these are unpaired electrons. Why do we care about unpaired electrons? Because they are going to take electrons from other molecules, and therefore they're going to cause the loss of stability in those molecules. So, it's one thing that some of these molecules are going to break down, but because they're breaking down, they're creating substances that cause other substances to break down. So it's like a domino effect. Along with passive aging, we have active aging. So in this is going to involve new activities or the appearance of new substances in the body. For example, lipofuscin granules are going to result from the breakdown of lipids, and that can also cause additional changes in the body. We can also see things like autoimmunity, which can develop, and that is when we discussed this before, but this is when your immune system attacks its own cells. So they forget who's the bad guy and who's the good guy. They just start to attack themselves. And again, that's extremely dangerous. You're also going to see even more apoptosis. So this is the process of programmed cell death. And this is something that begins before birth, right? So in some of our cells, they are going to die because they recognize that they have not been built correctly. There might be something wrong with them. They may not be able to do their jobs. So the cell recognizes that and destroys themselves. So it sounds violent, but it's a good thing because if this doesn't happen, then it can lead to other issues in the body. Some of them are cancer, or here's another example right here. In the fetal brain, half of the neurons are going to die, while those with strong synaptic connections are going to remain alive. So, perfect example right there. Some of the cells in the brain, they just weren't going to be able to hold it. They weren't going to be able to handle their job. So they intentionally die, destroy themselves, so that they could be reused to build new synapses that are stronger and are able to carry out better functions throughout the growth of the individual's lifetime. Mitosis and apoptosis are opposite, and that should make sense. So mitosis is when you have one cell and it divides into two identical cells. Apoptosis is when you have one cell and it destroys itself, and now you have no cell. Please keep in mind that cell death is a normal part of life. And on a side note, I probably put this in one of the assessments. When does the first cell die? Well, it happens before birth, right? Because even though we know that during pregnancy, the embryo is going to continue to grow and divide and multiply and differentiate and become special. Yeah, that happens, but along the way, a lot of cells are dying. And if literally this example right here wasn't enough, it's a normal thing. Cells are going to die and they get replaced. So with that said, the last slide here, talking about individuals who are able to live to 100 years and beyond. So we call these centenarians because they lived over 100 years. So the environment, we believe, has an important role in the death of people between 60 and 85. But genetics are more important in deaths at older age. So in other words, if you were able to live past 85 years old, typically the environment did their job on you and they weren't able to get you, right? So I make that sound kind of silly, but typically, like we said earlier, cancer or heart disease would have already killed a person by then. So at this point, the individual's genetics is really what's keeping them going at this point, amongst other things. Generally speaking, centenarians have high HDL levels, which seems to add about 20 years to their life. They usually have normal to low weight, have not smoked, handle stress well, and do not have dementia. So, again, these are just typical signs of individuals who live past 100 years old. These individuals have also typically inherited protective genes and normal variants of genes that cause disease when they're mutated. Some of these important genes in aging are glucose metabolism and insulin secretion, so being able to regulate blood sugar, functioning immune system, proper control of the cell cycle, meaning that they're able to create more cells as needed at the right times, not having cancer, but also destroying cells when needed. Cholesterol metabolism, a strong and efficient response to stress, and the synthesis of antioxidant enzymes, which are known for helping to prevent against cancer. So, with that said, this is the last slide. If you have any questions on the molecular aging process, active or passive aging, or anything to do with people who live past 100 years old, please let me know.